My name is Victor Furman. Some call me The Voice. I've always been fascinated with human nature, spirituality, science, and the crossroads at which they meet. Join me now and we will explore these topics and so much more with fascinating guests, authors, and experts who will guide us to Destination Unlimited. What do healing and health, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual, really mean? After decades researching this question, Dr. Patricia Muehsam, MD, offers a revolutionary way to think about health. Dr. Trish, my guest this week on Destination Unlimited, is a pioneer in the synthesis of science, holistic health, and contemporary spirituality. She has distinguished herself as a practitioner, educator, and research scientist, and has been an influential force in shaping the landscape of healthcare options available today. Dr. Trish is the founder of Transformational Medicine, a whole-person approach to health and well-being, offering tools and resources for individuals and communities in person and online. Her website is transformationalmedicine.org, and she joins me this week to share her path and book, Beyond Medicine, a physician's revolutionary prescription for achieving absolute health and finding inner peace. Please join me in welcoming to Destination Unlimited Dr. Patricia Muehsam. Welcome, Dr. Muehsam.
Thank you, Victor. Thank you for having me.
And I understand that you like to be called Dr. Trish, and that's what we're going to call you.
Okay, that sounds great.
Wonderful. Dr. Trish, what inspired your book, Beyond Medicine?
Well, the inspiration from Beyond Medicine came from two very big personal events in my life. Actually, I should say that the inspiration for how I work today and how I came to understand health and healing, which is what led to the book, my wanting to share a new way to think about health and healing. Those two big personal experiences were first, when I was in my early 20s, I started having what we would call psychic or out-of-body experiences. And it was an incredibly powerful period in my life that unfortunately ended not so happily. It was misunderstood by many people I told that I shouldn't have told, perhaps. And I ended up getting locked up in a psychiatric ward, destined to be medicated for life, told that I was essentially mentally ill. But to make a long story short, that period of psychic openings led me to understand that there is marvelous, real, remarkable reality beyond cognition and our five senses that I like to call the unseen world. And some may call it an expanded state of consciousness. But that is a place where inspiration, clarity, healing, and connection with unseen realms arises. And in that period of time, I experienced a kind of peace I'd never known before, and a peace that led me to understand that that peace was always available to us if we could access that particular place, that unseen world. So these psychic experiences, also I call them spiritual awakenings or spiritual openings. That was one powerful experience. The notion that we don't have to suffer, that suffering is not inevitable. And the second experience was a personal experience I had in my primary family. My father had had a quite catastrophic stroke when he was in his late 40s. And nearly 20 years later, when I was in my medical training, he experienced a treatment of a very gifted, somewhat eccentric physician scientist who worked with energy, qigong, and a unique theory of pathogenesis of how disease happens. And my father's catastrophic stroke had left him initially partially aphasic, meaning he couldn't get the words out that he wanted to get out, and partially paralyzed on one side of his body. And after these treatments with this somewhat eccentric but brilliant scientist, his speech came back. So that was another turning point for me that led me to believe without a doubt that healing was possible beyond the conventional Western biomedical model and beyond our current paradigm of understanding health, illness, and healing. And those two were formative experiences that led me to how I work today. And I wanted to, at one point, some years ago, before I put pen to paper, share all of that in book form with the world.
Wonderful.
So
How do you define absolute health and why does it matter?
I define absolute health as simply peace of mind. Peace of mind is our essential nature. It's the way we were born to be. And it matters because that state of inner peace is where we need to be mentally, emotionally, and also physically. The body needs to be in a state of absolute rest to heal for healing to happen. The body won't heal otherwise. Our thoughts and our feelings affect our health instantaneously. Every thought and feeling is either creating a state of ease or dis-ease. So a peaceful mind creates a calm and peaceful body. A disturbed mind creates stress in the body. The body needs to be calm for healing to happen.
And how do we get there?
Well, there are many, many ways to get there. In my book, in the teachings of the book, I offer what I call the five absolute health tools. And some of these are very, very simple and very immediate. Those 5 tools are breathing, meditation, journaling, a tool called mirror work for those of your listeners who are familiar with Louise Hay. That's a technique that Louise Hay cultivated in her teachings and work. And the 5th tool, the 5th of the 5 absolute health tools, is mind-body sensing, a somatic process where we tune into what's going on in our bodies physically, sensation-wise. These are tools that help us cultivate this idea of being here now, being present in the moment, not in the past, not in the future, but in the moment right now.
Let's talk about the first one, breathing. Tell us about the breathing.
Sure. Well, the simplest breathing tool that we can access is what's typically called abdominal, diaphragmatic, or belly breathing. And that type of breathing instantaneously turns on what's called the parasympathetic nervous system. That's the system we need to have turned on for rest, for healing, as well as for sleeping and for digestion. That system lowers our blood pressure. It lowers how fast the heart is beating. It lowers our breathing rate. And it facilitates that place I mentioned, that place of absolute health that we need to be for healing to happen. And also it's a place we need to be for clarity if we're confused, or if we don't know the answer to some sort of challenge we're experiencing in our life. So abdominal or belly breathing is the quickest and most powerful tool we have to instantaneously turn us from a state of agitation or vigilance to peace.
And what about journaling?
Well, journaling is a wonderful tool that can help us access what's going on internally, emotionally, and thought-wise when we may have a hard time doing that just naturally. It's a way that we can put our thoughts, emotions to paper, and I especially emphasize a technique called stream of consciousness writing, where we just literally write whatever comes to mind. And that's another tool to help us cultivate this be here now process. There are other journaling methods as well. There's non-dominant handwriting, where we write with the hand that we don't normally write with if we're dominant, either left or right-handed. There are journaling exercises for accessing our inner child, for accessing our higher wisdom. But these are tools that can really help us to just be present with what's coming up internally.
And what about tuning into the body that you had described?
Oh, yes, that's the mind-body sensing process that I mentioned, sometimes called somatic experiencing. It's just another technique to, again, cultivate this place of being present with what is. We're often, so many of us, especially in the Western world, in our heads, in our forebrains, in our thinking brains. And it's a way to literally drop our attention into our physical body and be mindful, present with what's going on in the physical body. And it moves us from mind to body. It can move us from mind to heart, from mind to body. And that's another very powerful way to get out of our thinking brain, which often can keep us from being here now and feeling what's going on in the moment.
So let's take an example. Let's say one of our listeners is at work one day and someone does something that they find challenging. What should the response be?
I suggest that people do what the easiest is for them to do. And if they're in a work setting where it's very exposed and they're not able to find a place of peace, the easiest thing to do is just go to the bathroom, sit on the toilet, and do some belly breathing. And that will allow us to calm the nervous system, which will move any thoughts or emotions of agitation towards feelings of peace and ease. If feelings are feeling very challenging, another process to do is that mind-body sensing that I just mentioned, finding the feeling in the body. If somebody's feeling agitated or angry, reactive, imagine dropping down into the body and feeling where in the body they feel that emotion, and breathing into that place. That's another intentional process to move us away from that heightened state of emotion or thought.
So all of these steps really are about being proactive rather than reactive.
Absolutely. Yes.
And in the workplace, that can be a very important thing.
For sure. Yeah. And it doesn't mean it's an essential element of human nature that we can be reactive. We're emotional human beings. We were hardwired evolutionarily to respond to stressors. And then depending on who we are personality-wise and the experiences and whatever traumas we may have had, we may react to situations internally, emotionally. So I won't say we shouldn't ever be reactive. In fact, I like to delete the word should from our vocabularies. But when we're noticing that we're reacting, the key is to noticing that and using that observation and then experimenting with the tools that I mentioned to shift that state.
So let's talk about that mind-body connection a little more. Please explain just how omnipotent our thoughts and emotions are.
Sure. Well, the mind and the body are intimately linked. In fact, there's really no separation between the two. This is a concept that is rooted in all the ancient global healing traditions, but it's something that we, and I certainly wasn't exposed to in my medical training, that we as a Western culture have lost touch with. We have a doctor for the heart, a doctor for the digestive system, a doctor for the mind and the emotions. But in fact, the mind and the body are intimately, inextricably connected. There is no separation between what we're thinking what we're feeling and what's going on in the physical body. And if something's going on emotionally, there will always be a physical component. If there's something going on physically, if we have an illness, a symptom, a disease, there's always an emotional component. Every thought, every feeling is either creating a state of ease or dis-ease in the body. And like I said earlier, a calm, a peaceful mind creates a calm and peaceful body. A disturbed mind creates stress in the body. What I love about it, being a physician and a scientist, is that this is ancient wisdom, and it's wisdom that we've lost a bit in the practice of Western medicine. But this ancient wisdom is now very well documented by the tools of modern science. There's a growing, vast body of research that has shown that feelings either held within, we kept in, i.e. repressed, or expressed in extreme, can cause disease and can impede healing, even cancer. And diseases that Western medicine deems incurable can be completely cured as long as we address the wholeness of the individual. And that means acknowledging the emotional correlates to those physical illnesses. In other words, emotional healing can mend us.
Absolutely. You've mentioned before that you've been a patient yourself. How has that influenced your practice?
In many, many ways, it's influenced me in terms of the importance of the practitioner. And I don't even like to use the word patient, but in terms of the relationship between the practitioner and the patient, for all intents and purposes, I'll just use that word now. Our relationships with practitioners can either be supportive or they can be destructive. And I've had some wonderfully supportive healing partnerships, and I've had some that were not supportive at all. And the healing partnership can impede our healing if it's not a supportive one. Obviously, it gave me great insights and empathy into being a patient, a quote patient, and a view as an insider from the patient perspective. And even if as a physician, there were times that it was very challenging and very disempowering because of how our medical system works today.
And how important is listening in the practice?
Oh, it's absolutely 100% important.
Do you find that many practitioners today, many physicians, don't spend enough time listening?
Well, I think most physicians who are employees of either academic centers or of large practices, and nowadays large practices are getting bought up the way veterinary practices are getting purchased, are set up to see patients in very little time segments. So absolutely, they're not able to listen. In my work, when I work with people doing health consultations, I spend an hour and a half to two for the first session. And often it's the person whom I'm working with that is telling me what's going on with them when I truly listen and when I ask specific questions.
So instead of the word patient, perhaps those who need to be listened to.
That's a great way of putting it. Yeah. For those who
Absolutely.
need to be heard.
For those
Yeah.
who need to be heard, really
Yeah.
heard.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Wonderful. You explain that healing may be a return to the body or a departure from it, for example, death. Just what do you mean by this?
Well, we obviously tend to think of healing as an improvement in our physical health, but also offer that healing can mean death. Death is a normal and natural part of life. This may not sit well for those of your listeners who may not like to think of the notions of dying and death. For so many of us in this culture, we think of death as a distressing or even horrific idea. And that's certainly the tendency of Western culture. But healing is a return to our essential nature. And our essential nature, as I said, is that place of calm and peace, And it's how we return to our body if we're meant to get well, and it's how we can leave our body with peace and ease if we're meant to leave our bodies. Tremendous cultural distress over the idea of death. We're so attached to the notion of longevity and fear of aging and all that's associated with aging. We've really horribilized dying and death, which is really unfortunate. And if we were able to accept that the experiences of being human, including illness, dying, and death, are natural and normal experiences of being human, we might very well be able to navigate them with more ease and enter them with more ease and leave our bodies with more ease. But that's a cultural issue in the Western world that's challenging for us. And certainly it's challenging in Western medicine because we do horribilize dying and death in Western medicine for the most part.
I have several friends who are death doulas who work together with patients in hospice situations and give so much love and so much understanding, not only to those who are about to depart, but to their families who are standing by. And I think it's a wonderful gift.
It's beautiful. We need more of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
My guest is Dr. Patricia Muehsam. Her book is called Beyond Medicine, a physician's revolutionary prescription for achieving absolute health and finding inner peace. Dr. Trish, please share with our listeners where they can get your book and find out more about you and your work.
Yes, you can get my book everywhere books are sold. It's on Amazon, it's on Barnes & Noble, it's on independent bookstores. It's at my publisher's New World Library. If you get it this month in November, it's the birthday month of my book. They're offering a discount. The coupon code is Beyond Med. And you can learn more about me and my work at transformationalmedicine.org. transformationalmedicine.org.
And we'll be back with more of Dr. Trish after these words on the Om Times Radio Network.
The cutting edge of conscious radio, Om Times Radio, IOM FM. Om Times Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. Om Times, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Imagine yourself being transported to India, to the banks of the Ganga and an ashram in Rishikesh. Visualize that you are welcome to satsang with an American sannyasi who shares the wisdom of her guru. Your visualization has manifested. Join Sattvi Bhagawati Saraswati for inspiration and transformation every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern on Om Times Radio.
So I'm a cat, and I just moved in with this new human, and she's got this little toy she's always playing with, all day long. Tap, 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 bloop, bloop. She can't put it down. There it is. Oh, and get this. She even talks to it. Last week, she asked it for Chinese, and guess what? Egg rolls showed up. Like magic. Humans have cool toys.
A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet. Be that person. Adopt. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the ShelterPetProject.org.
Back on Destination Unlimited, my guest this week, Dr. Patricia Muehsam. Her book, Beyond Medicine, a physician's revolutionary prescription for achieving absolute health and finding inner peace. Dr. Trish, on consciousness and the power of our minds, on our minds as medicine, you offer us a chapter on consciousness research, parapsychology research, on phenomena such as near-death experiences, past lives, and more. Why did you include all of this in your book?
Oh, this is actually the favorite part of my book. It may be more esoteric for some. In this section of the book, I invite readers to travel with me to a place I call, what I referred to earlier as the unseen world, a world beyond our logical thinking brains, a world beyond our five senses, a world where we don't necessarily begin at birth and end at death. and where our minds can go places our bodies can't, places we've never imagined. And I do this because I want to offer up readers who may wrestle with disbelief that believing in this unseen world can help us to make this seemingly magical and miraculous come true. As I said earlier, healing of even diseases that Western medicine deems incurable is absolutely possible. But if we don't believe it's possible, that belief can make it impossible. So I offer up stories and the science of those stories as avenues for expanding our beliefs, for traveling beyond how many of us are taught to think about space and time, and beyond how we conventionally or ordinarily perceives ourselves and the world around us. So if we can be open to these magical experiences that I offer, these miraculous phenomena, believing them can open us up to navigating those possibilities for ourselves in our own lives.
You have a chapter titled Miracles Are the Natural Order of Things, describing your personal experiences with healers, mystics, and others with apparently miraculous abilities. Why did you offer your readers these details, especially if the central theme is that our healer lies within?
Now, that's a great question. Well, that chapter is the chapter that follows the one that I just described, part of the same section of the book about the unseen world. And I do share my personal experiences that I've had with various types of healers and mystics, people that had or have apparently magical or miraculous abilities. And I do that, again, for the same reason. I offer the stories up with the hope that they can give readers reason to go beyond any disbelief, so they can go beyond any limiting beliefs they may have about their health and about their possibilities for healing, about any limiting beliefs they may have about circumstances and situations in our lives, bearing witness, like I did to my father's seemingly miraculous cure of his aphasia, his inability to put the words together. Bearing witness to what appears magical and miraculous can help us to be open to experiencing the magical and the miraculous for ourselves. It can help us dissolve those disbeliefs and take our fears away, and even offer us hope and offer us peace of mind. They're very expansive experiences, and they certainly were for me when I first met the various people that I talk about in that chapter.
I'll share a personal experience with you. I've had the gift of an inner voice, a guide, a spiritual guide, angelic guide. I don't know what people label these things today. But whenever I had something that would come up in my life that required more than I thought within myself, this still, soft voice from within would appear and give me guidance. And I always trusted that voice. It was not the shouting voice of ego, but again, that still, soft voice within. 1975, I was in the United States Air Force. I was stationed in Seoul, Korea. And we had a intramural football game with Army guys. I was Air Force and they were Army. And this one gentleman in the Army didn't know what touch tackle meant. And he went head first into my lower back, the small of my back, and knocked the wind out of me, knocked me to the floor. And within a couple of days, I started having really, really bad pain in my lower back. And I was being treated by the medical facility over there. And a friend of mine said, "Have you ever tried acupuncture?" And I'd heard of acupuncture, but I'd never experienced it. He says, "Why don't you try acupuncture?" And I found a Korean acupuncturist, and I had a treatment, and within 24 hours, the pain was gone. And I said, "This is a miracle." Unbeknownst to me at the time, in Korea in those days, practitioners of acupuncture did not necessarily use disposable needles. Their sterilization techniques were not the best. Hepatitis B was endemic in Korea. For our audience, that means many people carried the disease without manifesting the signs of illness. 2 weeks after I had the acupuncture, I woke up one morning not feeling right, and I looked in the mirror, and my eyes were turning yellow. And I went to the base hospital, and they looked at me and said, "You have hepatitis." They immediately admitted me, and they were treating me differently than they were treating the other patients in the ward. giving me infusions of vitamin K, which I didn't understand at the time. Other things were also going on. And one day the doctor asked me if I had a will. I said, no. Why? He says, well, you're very seriously ill and we want to protect your family. You need to get a will. And they had the Judge Advocate General's office send somebody over to do a will for me. And one night I'm laying there. I had lost a lot of weight. I had no appetite, no desire to eat. And the voice came. And the voice said, ask the doctor for a picture of something that shows a healthy liver. So when the doctor came in, I said, do you have anything that shows a healthy liver, a photo or something? And he said, why? I said, I just want to see what it looks like. So he begrudgingly brought me an anatomy book, open to the page with a healthy liver, and I started studying this picture. And after a few minutes, the voice said, put the book down and place your palms over your abdomen. And I did. And I started feeling this wonderful warmth and this wonderful tingling sensation. And I don't know how long it took, but after a few minutes, I fell asleep. The next morning at 5 a.m., the nurse woke me. She apologized for waking me up. She said, I have to take a blood sample from you. 2 hours later, she came back. She said, the laboratory messed up your bloods. We have to take another draw. An hour later, the doctor came in and said, after I gave you the book last night, what did you do? I told him. He said, you're crazy. I said, why? He said, because last night your liver enzymes were such that we didn't think you'd survive the night. This morning, they're almost normal. We've never seen anything like that happen before. I had a complete recovery. And in my official medical records, the doctor wrote, quote, the luckiest SOB I've ever met in my life. And then after I got out of the Air Force, a couple of years later, I heard that there was a laboratory in Manhattan that was looking for samples of people, blood samples of people who had had hepatitis B as they were trying to develop a vaccine. And I went to donate a sample, and the doctor said, we can't use your blood. And I said, why? He said, because there's no evidence that you've ever had the disease.
That's a marvelous story.
That's my miracle story.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Victor. That is wonderful.
So on our non-Western approaches to health and healing, you detail the history of the alternative medicine movement in the United States, and you describe supportive science around many alternative practices not currently accepted by Western medicine. Why haven't these ideas taken hold in Western medicine yet?
There are multiple reasons that those ideas have not taken hold, and they center around the socioeconomics and the culture of Western medicine. Western medicine is a multidisciplinary system. It became focused on systems. As I said earlier, there's a cardiologist for the heart, a neurologist for the nervous system, a psychiatrist for the thoughts and the emotions. So we're very specialized. We don't see the whole, we see the trees, not the forest. And similarly, in the scientific disciplines, there is very little communication between the disciplines of basic science, such as biochemistry and biophysics and molecular biology and clinical medicine. And I talk specifically in that chapter about, for example, acupuncture and homeopathy. Homeopathy is a practice that is quite different in theory to the practice that I was trained in allopathy, although I have been trained in homeopathy. There is a tremendous influence of the socioeconomics of pharmaceuticals in our culture. Homeopathy involves remedies that cannot be patented. They cannot make money for the pharmaceutical companies. It also works according to principles that are foreign to the principles of allopathy. However, there has been a tremendous body of great research. I'm not biased. I'm actually stating this as a fact, even though it may sound that I'm biased. Great research by physicists, by engineers, by molecular biologists on what's called low-dose phenomena. Homeopathy involves highly dilute substances. This research supports the veracity of this practice, but however, because I explain how scientific disciplines don't communicate with one another, that research never trickles down into the medical community. Physicians don't read the clinical journals and the basic science research journals of other disciplines. So it has to do with the socioeconomics of the system. It has to do with the nature of or let's say the educational system itself, and how the knowledge systems work very independently of one another and don't communicate with one another. So politics and economics and the structure of, let's say, the epistemology of our traditions. And the mainstream media does not communicate any of that because it doesn't receive information from the scientific media that discuss those issues. Yeah. So there's a tremendous bias, and physicians aren't educated in disciplines outside their own biomedical model and system.
Your book is a do-it-yourself guide with exercise tools and resources for exploring the teachings in each chapter. What are the 5 absolute health tools?
The 5 absolute health tools are those mind-body medicine tools I mentioned: breathing, mindfulness and meditation is the second one, journaling is the third one, mirror work, the Louise Hay developed technique, and mind-body sensing. And those are tools that can help us cultivate that place of absolute health, that place of inner peace, that place we need to be for the body to heal and for us to have clarity and inspiration. And I'm sure, Victor, when you had that remarkable experience with the hepatitis and the healing, you were in a place of rest when you heard that inner voice, when you heard that inner guide telling you to look at a picture of a healthy liver. You had inspiration coming from some sort of unseen place, some unseen reality. But it's that place we need to be where we can heal and where we can receive inspiration and clarity. And those tools, those 5 absolute health tools, can help us get there.
You explain how each one of these 5 tools has been shown by solid science to change our brains, change our bodies, improve our moods, and improve health outcomes. Tell us a little more.
Oh, that's a big question. Let me see where to start. Well, I mentioned earlier, breathing has been shown to instantaneously calm the nervous system. Breathing turns on the parasympathetic nervous system, the system for rest, digest, and healing. Mindfulness and meditation, there's been a lot of research on brain imaging studies showing the effect in the brain of meditation and mindfulness practices. For example, there's a part of the brain called the amygdala, which is like the thermostat of our emotions. It registers the temperature of our emotions. And there's a part of the brain called the prefrontal cortex. That's the part of the brain. Forgive me for those of you who aren't so into the science. I love explaining the science because so many of these practices are often thought to be really kind of, soft practices, but there's hard science supporting their veracity. So brain imaging studies have shown that through the practices of meditation and other being here now practices like mindfulness, the relationship between the part of the brain, the amygdala, that registers and reacts to our feelings, and the prefrontal cortex, the part of our brain that can step back and, I noticed I was feeling angry or anxious or scared, but you know what? I don't need to react to that. I don't need to be that. That's just something that I'm experiencing, but I can watch it as if it's a movie on a screen in front of me. So imaging studies of the brain have shown that meditation actually changed the wiring between that emotional thermostat, the amygdala, and that bearing witness part of our brain, the prefrontal cortex. So that's pretty cool. And similar research has shown that the effects of journaling change the brain, change our body's physiology, lower our vigilance measures, like lower the blood pressure, lower the heart rate, turn on the feel-good rest and relax system. And the same with somatic experiencing and mirror work. They've all been shown through science to cultivate that nervous system of rest and relaxation and healing.
I've found that when I bring through poetry, I've been writing poetry since I was a kid, And I found that when I bring through poetry, when I'm done, I feel absolutely wonderful.
That's marvelous. And when you write the poetry, does it just kind of flow from your hands to the keyboard or your pen to paper when you're writing?
Yes, I call it inspired poetry. It comes through me. Yeah,
Yeah. That's
absolutely.
lovely.
My guest is Dr. Patricia Muehsam. Her book, Beyond Medicine, A Physician's Revolutionary Prescription for Achieving Absolute Health and Finding Inner Peace. We'll be back with more after these words on the Om Times Radio Network.
Humanity Healing International is a small nonprofit with a big dream. Since 2007, HHI has been working tirelessly to bring help to communities with little or no hope. Our projects are not broad mandates, nor are they overnight solutions, but they bring the reassurance that no one is alone and that someone cares. To learn more, please visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
Grab a cup of tea or a glass of wine and tune in for Inspired Conversations with publisher Linda Joy on Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern. Linda creates sacred space for leading female luminaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. A soulful venue where guests openly share the fears and obstacles they've overcome, wisdom and lessons learned, and the personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired Conversations to empower you on your path to authentic, soulful living.
Hey, Dad, your prescription will be ready in just a minute. Hey, Dad, your laundry will be ready in just a minute. Dad, your lunch will be ready in just a minute.
Hey, honey, why don't you take a minute?
When you help care for a loved one, you give them as much time as you can, making sure they're safe and comfortable. But it's just as important that you take some time for yourself. At AARP, we can help with information and useful tips on how you can maintain a healthy life balance, care for your own physical and mental well-being, and manage the challenges of caring for a loved one. Because the better care you take of yourself, the better care you can provide for your loved one.
Thanks, Dad.
Thank you.
You're there for them. We're here for you. Find free care guides to support you and your loved one at aarp.org/caregiving. That's aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Hi, this is Bill Maher. I can find humor in almost anything, but one thing I never laugh about is cruelty to animals. If you don't get the joke either, write People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, 501 Front Street, Norfolk, Virginia, 23510.
When your car is making a strange noise, no matter what it is, you can't just pretend it's not happening.
That's an interesting sound.
It's like your mental health. If you're struggling and feeling overwhelmed, it's important to do something about it. It can be as simple as talking to someone in your community, or just taking a deep, calming breath when you need it. Nice. For mental health resources, check out loveyourmindtoday.org. At loveyourmindtoday.org, you'll find information that may help you get through a tough time. Things like tips for dealing with stress, how to navigate difficulties like financial worries, anger, substance use, and more. You can also find real stories of how people navigated their own mental health challenges. Because once you start to address the problem, you can go so much further. Visit loveyourmindtoday.org. That's loveyourmindtoday.org. Brought to you by the Huntsman Mental Health Institute and the Ad Council.
More than 24 million Americans have an autoimmune disorder, and that number continues to grow. I'm Sharon Saylor, and I'm one of those 24 million. To put that number in perspective, cancer affects about 9 million and heart disease up to 22 million. That's why I've brought together top experts and those thriving regardless of their diagnosis to bring you the latest, most up-to-date information. Join me, Sharon Saylor, Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, for the Autoimmune Hour on Life Interrupted Radio to find out how to live your life uninterrupted.
Back on Destination Unlimited, my guest this week, Dr. Patricia Muehsam, her book, Beyond Medicine, A Physician's Revolutionary Prescription for Achieving Absolute Health and Finding Inner Peace. Dr. Trish, what are the 4 primary medicines?
The 4 primary medicines are food, what we take in physically, and that includes beverages, lifestyle, how we go about our day. That's the second one. The third is relationships and community, how we connect and whom we connect with. And the fourth primary medicine is purpose. What moves us, what gets us up in the morning, and what may keep us up past our bedtime. It's literally our reason for living, our vital force.
I understand the other ones. Talk about food. Can't food be something not a medicine?
What do you mean? I'm sorry, I don't exactly understand.
The abuse of food, someone who overeats or someone who eats foods that are not healthy?
Oh, sure, sure. What I mean when I say food is medicine is food is our optimal medicine when we can cultivate food according to our best needs. And in my work, I do what's called constitutional nutrition. That's an individualized approach that is rooted in the global traditions of Chinese medicine and Ayurveda, where each and every one of us has unique nutritional needs according to our unique constitution. So yes, if we're not eating in ways that are supportive of for us, food may not be medicine for us. But when I talk about and write about and work with people on food as medicine, I help them cultivate an approach to food and eating choices and eating habits that allow them to cultivate food as their best medicine.
Okay, now I understand. You had alluded to this before when we were talking about the doctors giving enough time to truly listen to those who come to them. Let's understand a bit of the politics and economics of it all. And why do you include all this, the politics and economics, in your book?
I talk about that, and that's in the section that we talked about a little bit earlier when we talked about alternative medicine practices that are often marginalized, and they're even called alternative because they're not accepted by the mainstream Western medical culture. But the politics and economics creates that paradigm where we treat the disease, the symptom, the illness the person has, not the person who has the disease, symptom, or illness. And that reminds me of something that Hippocrates said. He's considered the founding, or one of the founding fathers of Western medicine. He said it is more important to treat the person who has that disease, more important to know the person that has that disease than to know the disease that person has. And indeed, when we can truly hear, when we can truly listen, we can come to know the person that has whatever that condition is that they're coming to us with. And that's why I spend a lot of time with the people with whom I partner, and I like to call it a partnership, to know who they are in their lives, where they've been in their lives, what's important to them, what's challenging to them, what are their passions, what are their struggles, what are their hopes, what are their traumas, what are their life circumstances, because whatever's going on in their body is completely connected, linked, and causally related. A lot of repetitive words there, to who they are. So getting to know the person is essential. And we can't do that when we're allotted 15-minute time slots to see a, quote, patient. And that is the politics and economics of healthcare, because healthcare reimbursement is, for most people, involves insurance companies, and they reimburse for certain procedures and certain types of visits. And those procedures and visits are based on time. And the more people you can see, the more the insurance company can be billed. And that's the unfortunate reality of it. We live in of all the developed nations, we live in the sickest developed nation in the world, and the one that is the costliest in terms of healthcare. And what's hopeful, what we can think about that's hopeful, is that really we have so many powers within ourselves to heal we talked about the 4 primary medicines. Those are medicines we can cultivate completely on our own without the need for a practitioner. Sometimes we do need practitioners in healing practices, but we certainly have a disease care system that focuses on the disease, not a health care system that focuses on the health or the wellness.
I've known people who define themselves by their illness.
Yes, I have too.
What does that do when they do that?
It keeps them sick.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You're a physician, and a physician's primary role is in supporting health. But your book isn't really just about health. It's offering readers a way to navigate life with ease and a way home to inner peace. Why did you choose that?
Well, because health is just one aspect of our humanness, the health of our physical body, the health, well-being of our emotional state, and the whole experience of being human doesn't involve just our physical bodies and our emotional state, but our experiences of life, our navigating of life. And health is a reflection of our navigation through life. So I offer tools that are not only relevant to addressing if something that may be going on health-wise, whether it's emotional or physical, but tools for navigating whatever we're experiencing in life. These tools I offer for healing are tools that we can use for navigating challenges in relationships, challenges in finances, challenges in workplace, challenges or confusion in our life path, or challenges with navigating the experience of being human. So it's all connected.
What would you hope that readers receive from your book? What's the take-home message?
Several take-home messages. The first is that inner peace is your essential nature, and that the path there is effortless and simple. Another message is that healing of any condition is absolutely possible, irrespective of what Western medicine tells us about that condition. And that healing involves letting go and surrendering, and what I call healing from the inside out. It necessitates a healing internally, an emotional healing from the inside out of those mind-body connections, those thought emotions that are linked to that condition if it's a physical condition. I'd also like people to understand that we're all going to leave our bodies. We're all going to die, some of us quickly, some of us slowly, that it's a fact of life. And if we can embrace this and learn to be fearless around it, and I actually offer tools for dealing with and navigating fear, that we can live with ease, and we can leave with ease, and we can experience life with more joy and less worry.
I like that. Live with ease and leave with ease. I love that.
And I've been there, and I'm navigating life myself. So I continue to practice what I preach. Some days I'm better than others in terms of navigating my experience of being in a body and navigating my experience of being a human, navigating this lifetime, this particular lifetime. But I can share with you that when I'm able to use these tools, I come to a place that is just peaceful and free and lovely. And again, that is our essential nature. And some of us may have never known that, that we can feel a place of peace and ease.
Absolutely. Tell us about the organization you founded, Transformational Medicine.
Transformational Medicine is the organization that I founded that describes the type of work I do. It's an approach to healing that allows us to consider complete transformation from illness to disease-free to cure, complete transformation from suffering to peace. It's a whole person approach to health, to navigating health and to navigating life. And I offer health consultations. I offer what I call mind-body healing sessions. I offer writings, as we're talking about, and I offer communities of support, both in person and online. So it embodies the essence of my work, that we can transform our lives from illness to well-being, from suffering to ease.
Beautiful. The wisdom and experience of Dr. Patricia Muehsam, her book, Beyond Medicine, a physician's revolutionary prescription for achieving absolute health and finding inner peace. Dr. Trish, one more time, please share with our listeners where they can get your book and find out more about everything you do.
You can get my book everywhere books are sold, on Amazon, at Barnes & Noble, independent bookstores, at my publisher's website, newworldlibrary.com. You can learn more about my work and me, and you can even connect with me if you visit my website, transformationalmedicine.org, transformationalmedicine.org.
Dr. Trish, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your experience and your wisdom and your big heart.
Thank you, Victor, for having me. It was lovely chatting.
And thank you for joining us on Destination Unlimited. I'm Victor, the Voice Furman. Have a wonderful week.